Welcome to Atomic Day's audiobook. Sit back and relax as you listen to the first chapter of the book A Weakness Called Love, The Memoirs of an African Housemaid, written by Glamty and narrated by Atomic Day. Chapter 6. Malam Salisu, my father, was calling my mom. He was right outside her room. Hajia, my mother, answered quickly and hurriedly went out to see my father. He was already lying on a mat. He leans on his right hand to support his weight, while he ran the other hand on his bald head. "I have to talk to you about something important," my father said. "I have heard Halimatu is here collecting girls. See to it that she takes Ladi along. She is ripe for marriage, but she has saved no money for marriage. What will happen if a suitable suitor come along and we have no money to marry her off? We are in a very disadvantageous situation. One has to think ahead in order to get things done the right way. I know I can buy a bed and leather rolls for the floor. If we're lucky, it is cemented, but that is as far as I can go. You and your daughter have to wake up and act like adults. Be responsible, for God's sake. Think about what I just said." My mother was quiet for a while, then she spoke. "I know, Maigida. I've been worried sick about her, and I have been doing a lot of thinking. What if her failure to stay at working houses is not entirely her fault? What if she has been possessed? Think about it. She does not have a suitor at the moment and she is a beautiful girl. What if some evil spirit is in love with her and does not want her to get married? What if he wants her all to himself? Do you think I should talk to Malam Audu for an exorcism?" "You shall not do such thing," he interjected angrily. "What your daughter needs is anger management and some manners. Perhaps if you stop coddling her all the time, she might have gotten a suitor already. Nobody wants to marry a stubborn brat. I forbid you from calling Audu." He spat. "You may go now," he said, "and bring me my lunch," he ordered. Of course he will say that now, trying to play the role of a man now, exerting his power and control over me. He is always a father when it is convenient, not when he is supposed to take responsibility. When I clothe them, he said nothing. When I buy soap, he keeps quiet. When he gave me only 1 bag of rice and 10 measures of millet after his harvest, for the entire year, it was okay, not caring where I would get the money for the rest of the ingredients and groceries. But he's always eager to eat. He even complains when the food is not tasty. Meanwhile, he sold the rest of the harvest and married a very young bride. Now he's talking of responsibility. "I'll do what I must. The health of my daughter is my utmost priority," she thought. She quickly cautioned her way of thinking. Her husband may not be the best, but he's certainly not the worst. At least he does not interfere with the wages of his daughters for the housework they do, unlike some men around here. Men like Malam Liti could not even wait until when the girl comes back home. Every month they send Halimat to the girl's working house to collect his daughter's wages. He practically lived on his girl's earnings. She feeds him and his 3 wives. When the poor girl was about to marry, there was no money for half of the house stuff. She was taken with a mattress and a handful of kitchen utensils. That too was only possible because her mother's relative pooled their resources. She was the object of everyone's ridicule, especially the groom's family. Till date, they call her a wretched woman. Whenever there is a fight between them, it was shameful. My mother shook her head in disapproval. The girl had to live in shame. No, her husband was fair at least, she thought. But he was not being reasonable. Ladi is definitely sick. She knew going to Malam Audu would be defying her husband's orders, but she could not care less. It had to be done. There was too much at stake. He will have to understand. She had no choice, she thought. She only needs to devise a plan in such a way her husband will never learn of her defiance. She finally came up with a plan. Tomorrow when her husband leaves for his farm, she shall go to Malam Audu with her complaints. She will quickly come home before he comes back. She smiled at her obvious smartness and in-depth intelligence. Halimatu came to my house the next day. She met my mother. They talked and it was decided Halimatu was to take me to town to work as a housemaid once more. Everything was arranged, but she told my mother we had to wait for a few days. There were men who searched the vehicles looking for traffickers. Town people are evil. They enjoy all the comforts of life, yet they seek to deny us our means of livelihood. They try to get us out of our jobs we worked hard for. Sometimes I wonder how people can be so cruel. We were to be taken to town in a group of 5 each trip, so we can escape the eyes of the oppressors. Hajara, the other woman who also take girls for work to town, had been arrested. She had to pay dearly before she was released. We had to be very careful, else we will end up like her. It was said that not even the children were spared. Should we be caught, we were going to be taken to a prison to spend the rest of our lives or beaten to death. A story was made up for us in case we meet those vile people. We were to tell them we were visiting our uncle in town. Sticking to the story is very important. I had agreed, though bitterly, to go to the city one more time, for what if I get moody? and I do not have enough money for marriage. No, I will not let that happen. I promised myself, Moody, I will not let anything get in our future together. Me, Shetu and Maria made a pact. We were to come back before harvest no matter what. We made a promise to ourselves. It was to be upheld at all cost. 5 of us, namely Shetu, Larry, Maria, Azima and I, were to be taken on the journey together. Hadiza and 5 others had already been taken to the city. We were next. The journey was to be taken in a week. I have 1 more week to woo my Moody. I have to move fast. No more sly or coy advances. I will go heads on to get the man of my dreams. Meanwhile, Shetu was true to her words. She kept her promise. She made sure I was everywhere. Whenever he was going, we were there before him, smiling and pretending something is funny. We did everything we could to get his attention. Even if it means humiliating myself, I did not care. Shetu introduced us. He always talked to Shetu, but he carefully chose to ignore me. We had memorized by heart every detail of his life. Every bit of his schedule and every movement of his was imprinted in our brains. We were at the market, at the movies, and even his house. Clueless Hafsat always welcomed us with open heart. She had always been a good host. Hospitality is her weakness, I thought. I was getting to know my cousin better, trying to uphold ties of kinship. At least that was the story. The motive stayed between me and my dear Shetu. I had told Shetu I was going to tell him how I felt about him, but she stopped me and insisted that he must make the first move. I was to be a lady, to wait for him. According to her, that was the only way he would respect me, but I was getting impatient. If people can suffocate their fellow human beings, Moody would have been 6 feet under by now. My mom had went to Malam Audu without my dad's consent. Malam Audu has insisted I was not possessed. My mother was not ready to believe that. She was convinced I was possessed. Her friend Baba Fati introduced her to a man who told her that I was almost possessed. But as I am a pious lady, the spirit had found it difficult to possess me. But he lays in, waiting for me. Whenever I put my guard down, he will jump right into me. I had never thought myself religious, but who was I to argue with him? It has to be true. After all, it is said he has the gift of foresight and can see beyond the present. I now consider myself religious. It is said piety lies within the heart. I am therefore pious at heart. Alas, my mother was convinced. Before her was a man who knows what he's doing, she thought. He prepared charms, amulets, and herbs for me for protection. Luck was on my side. He even gave me love potion to make men love me. His services were expensive. She had to sell all her dishes, but she insisted it was worth it. For what is money compared to health? I have been using my charm, a love potion, religiously, every day without fail. Especially when I know I will be seeing Moody, which is every day. We were at the village games while I anxiously searched for Moody with determination, but he was nowhere to be found. I tapped Shetu and whispered, "He's not here. He'll probably be at the movies. We have to meet him there," she whispered back. Hajara, who was standing beside me, said, "What are you girls talking about?" It was Shetu that answered, "Nothing. I think we are going to the movies tonight. The games are boring, nothing new, no good news or juicy gossip." The movies normally started after the games. Not all girls go to the movies. Any girl with proper upbringing and morals dare not to go to the movies. Mixing freely with men without caution is frowned at. The theatre is the heaven of men. Almost all men go there to watch movies and chat. But I was no regular girl. I was a girl in relentless pursuit of Moody. Sacrifices had to be made, rules had to be bent, and my will has to prevail. "You can't possibly be serious," Hajara said. "Why not?" I asked. "You know why, laddie. Good girls don't go there," she replied. "It's a lie. Many good girls go there. I heard that most girls meet their future husbands there. All the good men are going to be there. Why will we miss out on such a great opportunity because of a stupid rumor? You are welcome to tag along if you wisen up," I said. "Are you sure?" she said, undecided. "Larry," I called out. Larry was watching us with admiration. She came and I said, "We are going to the movies, but I know you don't go there. Tell Hajara your reason." I cast her an intimidated look that says, "Say the wrong words and I'll make you regret it." Larry was uneasy. She dare not say the real reason. She stammered. "I don't have all day," I said. "I sleep really early. I'm afraid if I go there I will slip off," she finally said. "Thank you," I said. I then looked at Hajara and said, "See, there's nothing to worry about. Nothing happens there. I know you also don't have a suitor. You don't have much time, dear. You can't just wait for something to happen or someone to do something. You have to get yourself out there. If after tonight you don't like it, don't go back again. I'm trying to help you here. No one will ever know you were there. Larry is the only person who knows we are going there. She won't tell. She knows better. Right, Larry?" She simply nodded. "Okay," she says. Personally, I don't care if the whole village knows. I just wanted to put Hajara at ease. The theatre was my rightful place tonight. After a while in a wait time, we decided it was time to go. We made our way to the theatre. The theatre consisted of wooden benches lined in a row. A TV set and a DVD player stood in front of the benches. The theatre was enclosed with pillars of woods and had an aluminium roofing. It was enclosed with a cotton. The cotton was made of sacks tailored together. A man stood by the entrance and collected the movie fare. Everyone was to pay 10 naira for a movie. The females sat in the front, while the males sat behind. We sat in the front row, where no eye shall escape us. Shet went out to buy us snacks while I sat there and waited for her. She was taking too long. I watched the doorway impatiently. Hajara had already met a guy, a tall lean guy, towered over her. She giggled while he talks. She looked happy. I'm a genius, I thought. Then I saw him walked in. His eyes met mine. With his full long lustrous ebony lashes curled upwards, he removed a chewing stick from his mouth, which he was chewing beautifully. Then he did the unthinkable. He smiled. That moment, everything changed. My heart melted at his view, for when he smiled, he was no longer beautiful, he was divine. We have come to the end of today's chapter. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Khadija Nasser and at Atomic D on Twitter, and subscribe to my podcast and YouTube channels at Atomic D. And also don't forget to hit the notification button so that you will be informed whenever I post a new chapter. Thank you for listening, and bye ta! Love ya!